Happy for the Metcalf family? Or maybe it's just relief. Rest in peace, Austin Metcalf. God bless the Metcalf family. They have been through absolute hell. And the last thing they've needed was some additional stress with a new trial. Karmelo Anthony, his request for retrial has been denied. His 35-year sentence stands. Thank God. This is a tough lesson for Karmelo Anthony, and he's lucky he didn't get more time. And I hope this is a lesson for all the Karmelo Anthony defenders. For those of you screaming self-defense, it would behoove each and every one of you to get a better understanding as to what self-defense really is. Because you too don't want to end up in a predicament like this. May Austin Metcalf rest in peace. And I send blessings to the Metcalf family.
It's official. Karmelo Anthony's bid for a new trial has been denied. Go ahead, Karmelo Anthony supporters. Come on with the excuses. Go ahead and blame white supremacy. Go ahead and say the judges were corrupt. Go ahead and say Karmelo Anthony was railroaded. Go ahead and say Carmelo's attorneys were on the side with the judges. We ready to hear y'all excuses. Y'all hopped on social media and said Karmelo Anthony got the dream team. They gonna get this handled and we gonna get that new trial. We gonna see. Well, we saw. And the judge said, no, he ain't getting that new trial. Let that boy go do that 17 and a half to 35 years, and then he'll get out and see his family. Austin Metcalf will never be able to see his family again. Go ahead with the free Karmelo hashtags and all this other nonsense that y'all want to do. It ain't gonna help the boy get out no faster. At the end of the day, Karmelo Anthony was wrong for taking somebody's life. That's the part that y'all don't want to talk about. Y'all want to talk about everything else besides the fact that Karmelo Anthony stabbed this boy, killed him, and now he got to go do that time in prison. We don't want to hear no more excuses about white supremacy and a whole bunch of that has nothing to do with the case. Let the boy serve his time, and let's just move on to the next subject.
Looky here. The new judge just ruled Karmelo Anthony ain't getting a new trial. Dang blasted, he still get the 35. I was hoping they kind of would give him a new trial so they can trial him as an adult and then either give him the death penalty or life with no possibility. That's what I was hoping for. Yeah, give him a new trial and then trial him as an adult. Boy.
Y'all remember this lady?
Day off from work. You might not need an Uber on that day. What day am I talking about? August the 19th, with Karmelo Anthony go back to court. The dream team not playing.
No, ma'am. You might want to remember the day August 22nd when Karmelo Anthony motion was denied. You might want to remember the day August 22nd, 2026, will Bill Worski spank the dream team. Woo! Bill Worski spanked 2 dream teams in a matter of 2 months. We should call Bill Worski Goku. Bill Goku, or Goku Worski, defeated the Ginyu Force they called the Dream Team. What happened to that dancing now?
What's going on, everybody? As you have heard, Karmelo Anthony will not be coming home in the foreseeable future. He has been denied the retrial. And to an extent, I am kind of with the brother that said that he was hoping that he'd get a trial, just due to the fact that, hey, you got to learn a lesson, man. Leave well enough alone. The fact that they showed mercy by only sentencing him to 35 years, do 17 and a half before you're eligible for parole, that was mercy. The Metcalf family is never getting this young man back. The Metcalf family's never getting him back. The Anthony family will still be able to see their son on visitations and things of that nature. I honestly believe at this point that the denial of the trial, it's going to be a blessing in disguise for Karmelo Anthony. I am hoping and I am praying that he repents, that he apologizes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be today. I'm hoping that this happens in the very near future. Maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's 2 years from now, that he can sit down at a table across from Jeff Metcalf, Austin's twin, whose name I cannot think of right now off the top of my head, and, the mother of the Metcalf family, and apologize and show real remorse. I'm looking forward to the day that happens. I hope that happens. I hope that this also leads as an example being made that you can't just jump out here and cry racism and think that you're going to get your way and hope that you can get a self-defense for something that is clearly not self-defense. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there, especially a lot of Black folks, men and women, who thought that, hey, this young man put his hands on him, and that is just all it takes for you to be able to defend yourself in a deadly way. It's the furthest thing from the truth. That mindset is reprobate, and it's crazy that you think all it takes is a nudge or a touch in order for you to pull a weapon out and end someone's life. So I'm hoping that those people that think this way, that they come to some realization that this is not how we're supposed to be behaving. This is not how you're supposed to act. Love your neighbor as you would yourself. Treat your brother, your sister as you would treat yourself, or as you would want to be treated. This is crazy that you've had people out here, caping and, throwing the fist up in the air and all this other kind of stuff, knowing good doggone well that Karmelo Anthony did something that is wrong, and there is no defense for this. And there was a reason why he didn't get put up on the stand. There's a reason behind it. And with everything that came out over this past week in reference to, the Metcalf boy, and some of the racism and some of those things, that had come out, and I'm again not condoning that. And then you find out the text messages and the things that Karmelo Anthony had been doing, and because they went way back, in both sides' history. Neither one of these kids were angels. Neither one of these kids, they both obviously had some anger issues. They were some troubled individuals that just so happened to cross paths. One ended up in a casket, the other ended up in a jail cell. Based off of what we saw from Karmelo Anthony with the text message, if it wasn't this situation, it would have been another situation in the near future that would have led him down this path if he did not get his anger, and his, mental situation in order. This is a sad situation all the way across the board. It's something I've been saying for well over a year. This is a sad situation. These are two teenage boys that got into it over something that was so minuscule. That is a fact. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this.
Anthony will now will not get a new trial after he was convicted of stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf to death back in June. Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Let's go now to Max Gordon for the latest developments. Max, this seems like big news. What do you have for us?
Hey there. Well, the new judge in this case, retired District Judge Michael Chitty, had until Monday to make a ruling, but it is now being reported that he has ruled before that deadline, denying a retrial in this case. Now, this comes after the original judge in Anthony's murder trial was removed from proceedings. That judge, Judge John Roach, said after the trial during a TV interview that the jury, quote, got it right when they delivered a guilty verdict, and there were questions about his impartiality. Anthony, now 19, was convicted in June of stabbing and killing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf during an altercation at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas. A Collin County jury sentenced Anthony to 35 years in prison. At the center of this new trial hearing is a verbal agreement between Anthony's original defense team and prosecutors to keep certain character evidence about both sides from the jury. Now, at the time the agreement was made to keep from further inflaming the case, which was already boiling over with racial tensions and death threats, but during this retrial hearing, that evidence was being discussed, and that included allegations that Metcalf had used racial slurs in the past and bullied black classmates. And it also included violent texts from Anthony, including one which read, "When I stab SB, I'm going to lick their blood off the blade." So some disturbing stuff right now. Right there. But again, Anthony's motion for a retrial also argued that Anthony's Sixth Amendment right to a public trial was violated because of courtroom restrictions. But again, the defense's arguments clearly not enough to sway the judge.
Karmelo Anthony, I didn't think he was really that bad. I thought he was an ignorant young boy with hatred in his mind and made a impulse decision to kill Austin Metcalf on that day, not realizing that he was worse. He don't look to me like he did none of this stuff that I'm about to show you. Road clip.
But the never-before-released details of Anthony's early years in Louisiana up to the day of his arrest for murder are also disturbing. On the day that Karmelo Anthony would fatally stab Austin Metcalf, prosecutors say he sent this text message at 1 a.m., which said, quote, "I'm low-key on the verge," and then emphasized it. Later in the morning, on April 2nd, 2025, and hours before Anthony would kill Metcalf with a knife at a high school track meet, prosecutors say Anthony's girlfriend reported to a Centennial High School staff member that Anthony was engaging in stalking behavior, to include but not limited to driving by her home and refusing to allow her to end their relationship. Also, in the 75-page filing, prosecutors say Anthony had previously been accused of stealing his girlfriend's phone, and in October 2024 wrote a to-do list for his girlfriend about how to deal with, quote, weirdos, which included the line, "Say some slick like my boyfriend kill people."
Yeah, this is crazy, man. When I saw that the other day, and I'm just like, whoa, it's more than what I thought, to be honest with you. You know, it's way more than what I thought. I thought maybe, you know, we had some fights and things of that nature in school. I had no idea that, you know, he'd have text message, you know, talking about he's low key on the verge and he'd want to, you know, lick the blood off a knife and all this other kind of stuff. Like, who talks like that? Seriously, who talks like that? So for this information coming out, it was very, very damning information. On the flip side of that, the stuff that came out about Austin Metcalf, the bullying, you know, the racial slurs and things of that nature, not good either. So the fact that there was a gentleman agreement between the prosecution and the defense makes complete sense to me. Hey, the prosecutor said, hey, we don't want to, you know, sully the name of the deceased. And we also don't want this information out because we don't want to sway, you know, the public opinion or the jewelry pool against Karmelo Anthony. Let's just keep to the facts of what happened that day. It makes complete sense. Now, you have people out there that are going to come out here and they're going to say he was railroaded, he didn't get a fair chance. But it sounds like to me, based off of all the information that has come out, he got a very fair chance. And even though he was convicted, he actually received a pretty light and lenient sentence, especially in comparison to the fact that he could receive life or up to 99 years, which essentially is a life sentence. Pretty fair to me. But I know you got folks out there that don't believe that, and they believe that Karmelo Anthony is being mistreated here, like he did not take the life of somebody. And the reality of it is this. Although, you know, Austin Metcalf's path, you know, of showing, you know, racism and, you know, they got caught, you know, with graffiti and vandalism, you know, with some racist things. Karmelo Anthony didn't know that. And it's not a situation to where Karmelo Anthony knew that Austin had done these things in the past. And he said, I'm going to get him for that. They didn't know it. They didn't know each other. And based off of the testimonies of a multitude of people there, both Black, white, and Hispanic, there were no racial epithets been thrown. There were no racial slurs or anything like that being thrown at Karmelo that would give, you know, the pro-blackity blacks out there the leg to stand on and say, well, he called him, you know, an N-word, or he called him, you know, whatever, and that's why he did it. None of that was said. And those questions were asked. But for whatever reason, you got folks out here that, again, they can't let well enough alone, and they can't believe that Karmelo Anthony got a fair trial. And they believe, the fact that you have people that believe that this dude should be out of prison, should not even be in prison, should have never did a day in prison, it's just, it's baffling to me, to be honest with you. You got justice.
Wow. This racist, they just denied Karmelo Anthony's trial. Black lives just do not matter. This is crazy, man, but we ain't giving up. Free Karmelo Anthony, you still coming home, but that's wild.
It's the parents' fault. The Metcalfs and the Anthonys, both sets of parents, it's their fault. The Metcalfs should have taught their son to not bully people for no reason. The Anthonys should have taught their son how to handle those situations with his hands, not have to go pick up a weapon. Now, Karmelo was railroaded. No matter how you look at it, no matter what side of this is you on, whether you want to admit it or not, the kid was railroaded. But at the end of the day, the parents need to share responsibility in this, because once they teach their kids better. Now we in a world where 2 young men basically lost their lives. But on top of that, it's y'all too, internet people out there who make it a white and black issue. If you don't make it a white and black issue, the news doesn't make it a white and black issue. And that's all it's been about. A black kid doing something to a white kid. That's all it's been about. It hasn't been about nothing. No nuance whatsoever. Because you know what? People don't care. They just want to choose their side and they just want to roll with it. But at the end of the day, it was tragic. The whole situation is tragic. And you should be praying for both families. You should have empathy for both families. But you know, this is America. And it always has to be a black and white thing for some strange and totally unknown reason. Because that's the first thing people pick and choose to defend. Not what happened, not the fact that it was a tragedy, not that there are 2 families that are involved in this, none of that. It's just a black and white issue to some people, and that's sad.
Is that not what's going on with the Nolan Wells situation? Nolan Wells lost his life. Some people say he drowned. We still don't really have an idea of what happened, but Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, they made this a black and white thing. Karmelo Anthony did what he did, and Dominique Alexander, he made this a black and white thing. Those of us on this side of things, we said, hey, this is just 2 high school kids that got into it, and this thing went in a terrible direction. To me, it wasn't a black and white thing. I mean, this is Frisco, Texas. This is one of the wealthiest counties or cities in the state of Texas. These types of things don't happen in that area. The people that made it a black and white thing are, unfortunately, a lot of black folks. They made it that. No different than the Nolan Wells situation. God rest his soul. For whatever reason, anytime the races of people are different, you're going to get folks in there to try to make it a racial issue when this wasn't a racial issue. This was 2 high school boys getting into it over something that didn't make any sense. Karmelo Anthony easily could have just walked away. When he was asked, the 10th, 11th, the 12th, the 15th, the 16th time to get up out from under that tent, he could have did that. He chose not to. Now, based off of what we saw, from those text messages when he said, hey, I'm low key on the verge at 1 o'clock in the morning, that morning before he did what he did, that right there in itself it's like, hey, somebody should have got a hold of him. When that information came out, maybe the parents should have got a hold of him beforehand. This is a tragic situation.
The new judge in the Karmelo Anthony case has denied his appeal for a new trial, even knowing that the jury was not reflective of anyone that looked like Karmelo Anthony.
Not one place does it say that the jury has to look like you as far as how much or how little melanin or age. It just says a jury of your peers, meaning people that live in the area that you live in. Typically, it's the county that you live in.
Even after knowing that the gentleman's agreement that essentially didn't allow evidence that was important in the trial of Austin Metcalf being absolutely blatantly racist, and problematic was not able to be presented, and it needed to be, and Karmelo Anthony was not allowed to testify on his own behalf in the trial because of this closed-door gentleman's agreement. Even though it's clear that the jury instructions actively worked against Karmelo Anthony's main argument, which was self-defense. But Karmelo Anthony's new defense team is not backing down. They said that this is not going to prevent them from continuing to make sure that there is justice in this case with Karmelo Anthony. Now, I know this is disappointing to many of us, but we need to continue to say Karmelo Anthony's name and advocate for him to get a fair trial at the very least.
The trial was as fair as he could possibly get. The gentleman's agreement showcases that. The fact that they bring up Austin's past, but don't bring up Karmelo Anthony's past, in the sense of the gentleman's agreement was to help both, because the reality of it is the defense didn't have to agree to the gentleman's agreement. They didn't have to agree to that. When it's all said and done, this quote unquote dream team, it's about the money, man. They're going to keep this thing going because as long as they can continue to get people to give money to that GoFundMe to fund this, the lawyers win. The lawyers win. The only person winning in this is the lawyers. They're going to try this again. They're going to try to take this up to the next level. They're going to get denied again. But as long as those funds keep coming in and they can continue to collect, they'll continue to work because the money green and it spins. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family or buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. And as always, keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace.
It is God who arms me with strength. Yeah, I'm battle ready. He trains my hands for battle. My heart stays steady. But thanks be to God, He gives us the victory. Through my Lord Jesus Christ, fear can't live in me. I was down to the dirt, red clay on my shoes, old pain in my shirt, oh so bruised. In the Lord hit my chest, kicked air from my breath, put power in my step.